Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Ashleigh Seay, and let me tell you a little bit about her background before we dive in. She is a real estate investor, a speaker on mindset and self-development. When she transitioned her career change from engineering to real estate investing, she encountered a self-inflicting challenges through her own limiting beliefs. Ashleigh branched out and decided to write about her experiences to help empower others to overcome barriers. She is passionate about inspiring individuals to see the positivity in their life, health, words, family, and spirituality. She's working on her newest project through her sphere of influence in real estate to establish an educational program specializing in teaching financial education to all ages of groups. Ashleigh, pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Cesar.
Good. Well, definitely. I'm intrigued to learn more about you and you let us know more about your what you do now. But before we do that, why don't you tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where are you originally from?
I grew up in Virginia. It's a little small town called Chase City, Virginia, and I lived there till about I was 14, and then I moved to Appomattox, Virginia, finished out high school, then did a small little stint in Radford, Virginia through college, and then I ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee to finish out my bachelor's. And I just never left the area.
You decided to stay there. No, that's awesome. And so, how was it growing up for you? Like, how was that for you? Was it challenging? You know, a lot of times people go through different things, and one of the things that I talk to with a lot of people is that really the things that we go through between the ages of 0 and 7, they tend to follow us, right? And then unless we heal and or work through those challenges, then that could be something that's gonna follow us all the way through our life. So how was that for you?
Yeah, there's been challenges along the way for sure. Where we grew up was a small town. We were country folks, I guess you would call it. Both sides of my family grew up farming tobacco because that's what Virginia was all about.
Mm,
They were down to earth, all comics, both sides of the family. So I had a pretty big side of the family, my mom's side and my dad's side. Um, my mom, she passed away when I was 7 from cancer. And
mm.
so then my dad raised me till I was about 14. He was a funny guy, always joking. So I get a lot of humor from the seaside, which is still
Yeah,
my last name to today.
yeah.
And then I moved in with my aunt, my mother's sister, and my uncle, and I lived there for 4 years. But and we grew up with a fun-loving family on both sides. Unfortunately, through most of my life, we've depleted. A lot of them's passed away, and I'm sad for that. So I'm
Mhm.
down to maybe an aunt and uncle, and on both sides now. And we
Wow.
were a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
So that's probably sadder than anything. But that's part of life. I mean, as we get older, we know we're going to outlive the next generation, but it was a good generation that molded me into who I am today.
Yeah, no, definitely. What was the reason that you ended up moving from your dad into your uncles and aunt?
And mine, that's a long story.
Yeah.
I won't get into that on this podcast, but
Okay.
just family circumstances, and that was probably the best move for all of us.
Got you. All right. And so talk about when we're growing up, we always have an idea of when I grow up, I want to be this or that, right? We want to become somebody. So what was your child dream that you wanted to become as an adult?
I think I found an old baby book that my mother had kept for me, and I think every year I had picked some trade to do. But I think when I started getting, I did an art class in school, and I think that was seventh grade, and that I was like, I want to be a designer. I wanted to do design buildings, and that was more line of architectural. But then when I started reading into that, that was many years of college, and I think that was a very competitive market for that. So I was like, well, I'll just do engineering then,
Yeah.
thinking
Wow.
that that would just be a nice subtle second to pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew we didn't come from a lot, but we came from love. So I figured I would pick a degree that made money. So I went from a money perspective when I chose my career. I didn't
Mm,
choose, I don't think, passion for it. So I was
yeah.
just like, engineers make good money. That seems like a good profession. So I just went for it. And I mean, the ROI on it, it paid for itself in the
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, that's actually something interesting, and I want to get your take on that, because I do believe, like, for people that might be listening to this, that might be choosing between the money aspect, right, and then also the passion aspect. What are your thoughts on that now? I mean, do they still stand the truth as they did before, where go ahead and chase that money object versus a purpose, or have you had a shift of ideas now, and more so chase your purpose and the money will come?
I think that's a really good question. When I went through high school, I worked with the state parks, and I really loved that, working in nature and managing and doing maintenance. But I knew it didn't make a lot of money, and you had to be 21 because you had to get, I think you had to go to police school
Mm,
for that. But it was not a lot of money in it, and I think I chose money over passion. But I know a lot of people that's have wonderful careers in it. So
yeah.
I don't want to that was just where I was at in my mindset. That's a really good question.
What about
I
now?
would
Like,
say,
where are you? Like, are you like more on the money side or on the passion side?
I think now later in life, because I have financially set myself up to the ability to go follow my passion now.
Mm,
uh, I've chose passion in my life, but I think if I chose passion early on, I don't know if I would have set a stable foundation for me for what I was going to choose.
got it. Yeah.
Um,
No. Yeah. It definitely. There's no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, I believe that there's just it really depends on how you see things, right? And a lot of it, I think, comes down to the framing of it, and
yeah,
whether people want to go ahead and chase passion now, then they definitely gotta be also intentional on that, right? Is not just
absolutely.
I think there's certain things where you say, well, I want to I want to help nonprofits or do all these different things. Well, you
Hmm.
still need money to be able to do that, and although
Okay.
that's a good passion, I think you have to definitely understand how to approach it in a different way. One of the things that I tell people a lot is that if you're doing things for profits, you're doing it wrong. And you got to be doing things for purpose, and the
Mhm.
and the profits will come, right? And I do believe that. I do
Absolutely.
believe that you have to create that. And again, though, it goes back to the idea of how can I approach this, and am I doing the right things to be able to support whatever my
Hmm.
passion or purpose might be, and then allow for the money to come, right, in that way.
Absolutely. And I wrote in my book, one statement I heard from an investor that was very wealthy early on. He was like teaching another person. He was like, "Poor people can't help poor people," and I was like, "That's kind
Right.
of messed up." But
Yeah.
then when I started thinking about it, it was true. It's you can't go out and give all that you have because you will burn out.
Mhm.
So you need to. In my last job, they talked about the pillars, which created the foundation for the roof.
Mm.
So I think you really, like you said, you need to create a good solid foundation so
Yeah.
you can still provide more. So,
Yeah.
whoever you are now with, like I said, with no money is who you're going to be when you do have money. So if you do so much now without it, when you do get it, you would just do amazing things to make the world better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that the big lesson here is don't just chase money. Uh, you can still definitely be having a good job or whatever, and then you have a passion or a purpose behind that, and it's all part of the dynamic. Except if you're just only chasing money, I think that's gonna run out sooner or later, right?
And I
um
mean, it kind of did with engineering with me. I got to a certain point and, it's just, I wasn't in it. I loved it for so long, but then my passion wasn't there. But then when I got in real estate, they always say, write down your goals. So we had wrote down, we wanted to be liquid this much by a certain year. And when we went back, we realized we had hit those numbers, but it didn't bring fulfillment. The years that we started filling, I call them my F buckets, like faith, fun, fitness,
mm,
finance. When we started filling the other buckets, that was when you start your wealth journey, that was when it felt more to me and was more passionate.
yeah, I love that. Talking about, getting your buckets right, and I think part of it too is, you recently uh were part of this book, and you talked about how words can impact yourself, right? And really the words that you use make a big impact. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know that that has become a huge aspect in your life recently. And so tell me how changing your words created a huge impact in your life.
Absolutely. Words is something that I feel will always work on. We just came back from Vegas, a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
her story where one of the family members was telling lies, and she was saying, "We don't tell lies in this house. We don't tell lies." And then she said when she changed the way she said it, she went around the house telling everybody, "We only tell the truth in this house."
Yeah.
I mean, it opened up my mind even more, and I was like, "Gosh, the
Yeah.
power of words is just amazing." And I growing up in the country and a smaller, there were certain sayings that we would say to each other, like money don't grow on trees. And it was
Right.
all these little quirky sayings we were have. But as you get older, you realize they're funny, but at the end of the day, they're termed in a negative context. And so you just really have to be aware of what fed you through your life and what habits you created as you became a young adult and really change how you speak to yourself. I just can't preach how much changing how I spoke to myself and having accountability. When Christy, I'm always like, she'll say, "Hey, you said this wrong." And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." So I'll have to go back and restate my whole sentence. Even if it was a paragraph, I'll go back and restate it in a positive sense. So whatever path you start on with positive words, get someone to be your accountability to tell
Yeah.
you, "Hey, you said but," or you said honestly, or
Right.
however, the words we don't want to keep in our
Mm,
vocabulary.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. And now that you mentioned that again, when you think about some of the simple things, like, money doesn't grow on trees, or things that maybe growing up, or things that we hear all the time, they don't seem, they sound innocent, like there's nothing negative about it. At least that's what we think. And again,
yeah.
the one thing we got to understand is that, the way we operate is both conscious and unconscious, right? So those things that we're saying to ourselves are going to our unconscious mind, and without us realizing, we're creating these neural pathways on our brain to start believing and creating those things in our reality, right? And so
Yes.
again, when we start changing those dynamics and start speaking in a different way, not only the way we speak to other people, the way we speak to ourselves, because you actually have a pretty amazing story, and I want to hear about it a little bit, and want to go more deep into that, because again, the way you speak to yourself, it means a lot. It's huge.
Mhm.
And so for you, you were challenged with your weight, right? And you said,
Mhm.
sometimes you would even make jokes about being fat, so nobody will
Yeah,
joke about it, and you're just kind of like, all right, well, if I'm joking about it, everything's gonna be okay.
correct.
Nevertheless, that again was creating more of that. So tell me more about that and that experience.
Um, I think my weight started because I played a lot of sports in school and lifted weights. And then when you get out of that routine in high school, I was just eating the same foods, drinking the same stuff, and I was just getting bigger and bigger. And then it was like, I can't get a hold on it. But when you work out multiple times a day and was lifting weights on top of that, you burn a lot of energy and then you stop. And I think a lot of my weight is probably just stuff I haven't taken care of throughout my life because everything that we are is something we haven't let go. And if there's a pain or a trauma that we are holding on to, you won't lose the weight because that is going to always be there holding it on to you. So sometimes you got to dig deeper than the words to figure that out. But
Mhm.
Yeah, the weight kept packing on through college, and I just noticed every time I came home, that was the first thing people would notice because that's what we do. We look at people based on how they look, and that's the first thing we judge people on. So they didn't mean nothing by it. It was just like, oh, but it was hurting my feelings, but I wouldn't say anything because I'm quiet with a lot of that stuff. Most people meet me like, she's not quiet, but on my feelings, I'm very hush hush.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started just making jokes about like, yeah, look at this love handle. Yeah, just so they wouldn't have the first opportunity, and I was creating that diversion tactic. But at the end of the day, it was just hurting me because I was allowing them. When you allow people to make fun of you because you're doing it, then they think it's okay and they'll continue to do it. So
Yeah.
if you create words around, yes, this is something I am larger right now, but this will not be who I am down the road. And please respect that. There's ways to set the boundaries where if I had just said something, they might have just said, that's kind of a sensitive topic for Ashleigh. Let's not bring that up when we meet her.
Right. Yeah.
But so yeah, that triggered a lot, and it's just been up and down with weight since then. And then here lately, I just changing my words and changing habits. And that's been a big one for me. And then I just speak a lot of positive. I'll look in the mirror. It probably sounds weird if someone walks in the house, but I'll look in the mirror and I'll tell myself every day, like, you're wonderful, you'll attract good and honest people. It's just like I tell myself everything you want to do in the mirror.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I gotta tell you, like again, if anybody find themselves saying something that maybe is negative, or you find yourself like I'm once again talking down to myself, then we got to be
Mhm.
able to react and change that sentence or that thought immediately so that we put it in a positive connotation, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's one thing that's one way that we can start looking at how can I start switching or changing the words that I'm saying to myself and or other people. And then when it comes down to the mirror, I gotta tell you, like I used to do that too when I a while back, and it's like it's weird, right? When you first start doing it, except again though, it is the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is be able to look at yourself in the mirror and tell you like, hey Cesar, I love you. Like, hey Cesar, I
Mhm.
appreciate you. Because sometimes you don't hear that enough from other people. And it's not about getting that validation from somebody else. It's really validating
Mhm.
yourself that you
Correct.
love yourself enough the way you are, and you're in the process of becoming even bigger and better. And you got to remind yourself that. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's when I feel that sometimes when people are not getting the validation from other people or themselves, they end up falling into maybe depression, or they're sad, right? And then other things can come out of that that really you don't want to get yourself into. So I do believe it's really becomes from the words we use, how we speak to ourselves, other people, the things we listen to, the things that we watch, like all of those things, like that's the beginning. And then from there, as you mentioned, now you got to take that and also apply it with habits. How can I start changing my habits? Because I'm seeing things and hearing things and talking differently. Now I'm going to change my habits so that it can actually support the way I'm speaking, right? And I think when you start taking that combination is huge in that sense.
Yeah, and reframing yourself. A lot of times we're always seeking that self-validation, like you were saying. And I think when you hit a certain point in your life and you reframe it correctly, you don't need that. I don't, I used to worry about what a lot of people think, and to a certain point, you still let that bother you. But I've started a new thing where if I grab the keys to go outside, I constantly, from the time I wake up to the whole day, it's hard to stay in that mentality, but do a whole day of gratitude. Everything you touch, just say thank you for this being so convenient for me to do. And if you stay in a day of gratitude, your mindset and a lot of things start changing too. Because then you're like, you know what, I do have a really good life. You know, everybody's in a different stage and they may own different things.
Yeah.
Fancier cars, bigger houses, but at the end of the day, what you have is still beautiful. And in America, we do have a lot of things at our disposal that other countries do not have,
Right.
and we take that for granted. I mean, you've come from a different
Yeah.
area, and you were telling us your story, and I was just like, we didn't have to experience that level here.
Right. Yeah.
We just started out, it was different for us, and I think we should have more appreciation that we are more blessed here. Yes,
Yeah.
things are not always what we want them to be, but this is a good place to live.
Yeah, exactly. And we got to be appreciative of what we have,
Mhm.
and content where we're at, and realize that, it's okay to want more and still be happy with what we have right now, right? And so
correct.
that's huge. So talk about real estate. So you venture into real estate. What kind of real estate are you doing? Real estate investing and why real estate?
Absolutely. We started our journey, it feels like just a couple years ago, but I think it's been a little bit more than that. I met my business partner at the time and we were like, hey, we want to get in real estate, not knowing what it
Yeah,
is. And then shortly we did a flip and then we partnered with somebody else, did two more flips, and then we were like, we bought a long-term rental, couple of them, and then somebody introduced something else, and then we were like, okay, we'll try short-term rentals.
yeah,
And then we kind of like that side of it, so we bought another one. But I think with the market and everything, I still want to acquire more long-term rentals
yeah. Right,
to
right.
even out, just to balance the portfolio. But we do long-term rental, short-term. We've done flips. I've done wholesaling. That wasn't my favorite, but it's still an exit strategy. Whatever you get into in life, or a deal or a property, just understand all your exit strategies so you're not just stuck with one tool on your belt, correct? So
Right. Yeah.
um, and then I've branched into other things. I went and got my license. So I help people residential. Here lately, I've just been working with investors to help them acquire portfolios. But I did that so I can make money on my deals that I'm buying.
Yeah. Right.
It's nice when you can show up to closing and don't have to have no money down because you use your agency fees. So it's just another
Yeah.
strategy that we used in real estate. And then I got into managing short-term rentals, ours plus some others. And then I realized that's kind of something that more people want to be independent investors at this point. So I think it's better just to teach them how to do short-term rentals. And somebody showed us how to do short-term rentals, but through the process, we struggled and it was nobody there to hold our hands. And I was like, if there was somebody here, I'll pay you if you
Yeah.
could just help me do it. So we've got into doing consulting on the side. So if you're starting an Airbnb or Verbo, everybody calls it that, but it's short-term rentals is the term. But if they
STR.
have a
Yeah.
property and want to get started with that, call us. What we'll do is we'll do consultation. We'll hold your hand. We'll help you get it online. If you want to do it, then we'll just help you oversee it. But there's a lot of things in the beginning with licenses and dealing with codes that a lot of people don't understand. They just think, oh, I'll just throw it on Airbnb. But some cities are getting strict and they'll go find you.
Right.
So we were talking about doing consulting and helping people. And then if they want, we'll follow them however long they want. If they want us to hold their hands in case they get a bad guest
Yeah.
and don't know how to handle it, we'll be there to help them. So we wanted to start that business plan and get further down the road with that.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And then you in your bio, we're talking about your venturing to like some sort of type of educational program, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I'm so excited about it. It's still in the works. We talked to you about writing
Yep.
a book, another
Yep.
book, on how to relate to children and teach them real estate. So we're actually upstairs now, doing a breakdown for for a book, and we're going to
Nice.
start on that. And then I've been talking with Marshall
Yeah.
on creating the thing. So we bought the URL. So we really need to just create the course,
Yeah.
and I think it would be really, it's going to be so fun. I'm passionate about that kind of stuff. So that's really where I want to put a lot of my focus
Yeah.
coming up soon and just build that out. And I've been working with other investors on ideas on that. So I
Yeah.
can't tell you everything because everything's in the works at
Yeah.
this
No. Right.
point.
No. That's good.
I know.
And do you have an idea as to when you're gonna have that ready, or by when you want to have this accomplished?
I would like to have it by December.
That would be
I'll
awesome.
kind
That'll
of,
be a nice Christmas gift for many people, and especially
yes,
for the specific target group of people that you're gonna be targeting. I think would be amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the studio's getting opened up in California, and I really would like to have something to kind of pitch it to be a part of that.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still working with Marshall to try to get that going, and yeah, we're really excited. As you can see, when you follow passion, my
Yeah.
my smile gets bigger.
No, no, that's good. That's huge. So if people want to learn more about, your maybe they want some consultation with
Absolutely.
SDRs, or want to learn more about your real estate or anything that you're doing, where can they find you?
Yes, you can go to facebook.com/Ashleigh Seay, and I guess you'll put my whole spelling in my name,
Yeah.
RE. So Ashleigh Seay, RE.
Okay, cool. And then um talking about just the growth mindset and you know changing different dynamics, like do you have any specific habits to things that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep you in a positive state of mind?
Oh, that's a good one. I try to get up at the same time every day, regardless if it's Saturday or Sunday. Don't take no weekends off. I read my affirmations. We've discussed that before.
Yep.
I try to do something health wise in the morning, whether I do a steam or lately I've got a PEMF mat. I can't say that real fast. I get on that, which that's another whole subject with health. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that. And then you start, then that in between, you just kind of set your schedule. We've started the night before writing our game plan of action items.
Mm,
So when you get up the next day, you kind of have your to-do list. And then the evening time, I do another workout, and then try to just eat well during the day. But I think at night, saying prayers and putting demands kind of in them about what I'm kind of already
mm,
speaking it into the future. That's
yeah.
the big one where I just visualize myself where I want to go
Yeah.
and just kind of manifesting it really. Because I know what path I don't want to follow. So it's like, that's your consequences if I go down that path. So if you want to go down this path, just where do you see yourself 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? And I just keep seeing myself in the future.
Yeah.
And that kind of just keeps me positive and keeps me going.
I love that. I love that. And at the end of the day, when you were talking about the consequences, right? One of the things that we need to be mindful about is that the decisions and choices that we make today will impact the quality of life that we have
Mm.
tomorrow. And so if we feel like we made a incorrect or wrong decision, then we have the ability to pivot immediately and make a new one, right? The challenge is that sometimes we are hung up on that decision and then we stay there without even making a new decision, right? And so I think that's part of the dynamics when we're looking at that growth mindset. And as you
Hmm.
mentioned, looking yourself in the near future, like where do I want to be? It's like
Hmm.
if you have a setback, I don't think there's any failures. If you have a setback, recognize that that was just an educational experience, and we got to be able to extract those lessons from that. And now I got to be able to change and pivot. Except again, the challenge is many people don't seem to be able to get out of that, right? So, like, what would be maybe perhaps an advice, like for you that you're looking into the future and you have kind of like you're setting yourself, you're creating your path of where you want to
Hmm.
go. What would be an advice for people that might be stuck on that part of that, where they know they want to be here, and then they might have a setback, and they're like, oh, well, now maybe I got to give up, or I don't know what to do next, or like, what would be that one thing you can tell them to like keep going?
I would say first off, don't beat yourself up. There's plenty of days where you may sit there and like, I didn't do anything, I didn't get anything done. Okay, that was that day. The next day, go back to your game plan of your system. Don't let it repeat. If you'd have a bad day, don't do it the second day, don't do it the third day, because at that point, you won't continue on to your healthy habit. So take that day, say, yes, I know I didn't do as much as I wanted to, but let's erase that. Tomorrow, get back up at 6:30, start your plan and keep going. Just don't get stuck not doing something multiple days in a row.
Hmm.
That would be the
Yeah.
biggest advice. And if you get stuck and just feel like you're just sitting around the house not doing it, you get up and go for a walk and come back
Mm.
and then try it again. Just go
Yeah.
clear your head. It's okay. This is not an easy road being an entrepreneur or real estate investor, but having a good sound mind and just being positive and loving yourself is going to take you further in life than any career path.
Yeah. No, I agree, and then I think the mindset is everything. I like the fact that you say get up and go on walk, take a walk. I actually do that a lot.
Mhm.
I started doing 75 hard a couple of years back, and that was one of the things that I would go out and walk. And now it's part of my routine. Like every day, I must go out and walk at least once a day, and I just like put on my earbuds and listen to some motivational speakers or something that's
Mhm.
actually going to set my vibration at a different level. And I start thinking about what is going to be the next book title. What am I going to do here and there? Right? It's a good way for you to like clear your mind and start really putting thoughts into existence. So I think that's a huge advice in terms of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Walking and talking has been my favorite. And just even if I'm by myself, I just get out there and I'll just start walking and talking out loud. And a lot of times, like you said, a great idea come in your head, and you're like, "Why did that just come in my head? I've been thinking
yeah,
about it all day." But
yeah.
I don't know, it's something
I'll be
about the
honest with you. The
motion.
one thing that I gotta do, which I'm not doing, I don't do as much, and although I have my phone, I guess, I need to carry. I know Jim Rohn talks about, and I think it was also Richard Branson talks about carrying a little notepad, right? Because you never know when those ideas are gonna come in, and then you got to be able to just like note it down. And Jim Rohn talks about uh, don't use your mind as a file cabinet because you're
Yep.
gonna lose those ideas. Write them down. So I got to do more of that because I'll be walking and doing things and like I get a good idea. I'm like, yeah, I'll remember. Then I get home, like I forgot already. So
Yeah. And I would think even an audio, that's not going to cut it. I think
but
it's some power when you write down on
yeah,
paper. And I don't know, it's kind of magical because when you write it on paper, somehow whatever was stressing you out somehow develops on that paper. Because
yeah,
I've went to the notepad with so much anxiety, and I'll write this, is it money? And my anxieties, and I'll write something else, and then I think I got to the end of the page, and I was like, "Was it because I'm stuck in the operations of the business?" And all of a sudden, my gut just it released the energy, and I was
yeah.
like, "Okay, that's what's bothering me today."
Yeah, no, that's huge. I see it as like when you're journaling too, like or just putting stuff on a paper. I see it as a your mind is a computer per se, right? And it's like a computer dump. You're just taking all of that
Mhm.
stress, all that energy, and put it into a piece of paper. So to me, I feel like you're transferring that energy, right? And then when you're looking to retain more information that is actual valuable to you, or there's more meaning to it, statistically, when you write things down you tend to retain more information than if you were to type it up in a computer
Mm.
or if you were to listen to it in an audio like so I know when we go to Marshall's events a lot of people say hey can I type it up I'm like yeah he can type it up he'll tell you though write it down because you're going to retain more information if you do it
Yes.
that way than typing your life away so no that's huge.
Yeah. Every time I go to the event, I write the same things. It's like, but something else on that paper reaches out to me, and I'm like, that's a
Yeah,
home run right there. It's,
yeah, no
it's
exactly.
whatever environment you get around that you feel good energy, and that's the best way I can explain it. You need to stay around it or be close to it constantly.
Yeah.
That'll help so much in your growth.
No, I love that. So, Ashley, for the people that are listening to us and are watching us, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one advice you can give them so they can overcome that challenge?
Mm, good one. It depends on, that's a good question. I don't know what point in your challenge that you're at. If I'm just going to take it that you're really down and you just feel like there's no way out. Um, Recognize who you're surrounded by and find out if they're ones that are supportive of you and can help and talk to people. That helped me in some of my lowest points is just finding out who your family is, and it doesn't have to be blood, but
Hmm.
just find out who your family is and your core support is, and then just talk to them. And I think that'll be helpful if you were just really low. If your challenges are just because you're not going where you want to, make a plan and take an action. And that's where I'm at in my crossroads is I'm not taking enough action. So I'm in a growth spot right now. So I'm doing things that are uncomfortable. I'm sitting here sweating. But you just have to do it and it'll be okay. And then surround yourself with people that's done it, mentors, coaches. You don't have to do any of this alone. Everything's been done in the world. I mean, there's nothing new. So, I mean, AI is a little new, but there's someone that's already done it. So go out there and get help and see what
Yeah,
they're doing. People are very helpful
yeah.
that I've been around.
No, I love that. Boom. And that is that one thing, take action. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's a huge takeaway. It's as simple as that, except you just gotta create that action plan and take action now. And one of the things that reminds me of that is even when I started this podcast several years back, and even some of the other things that I've done is like sometimes we want to be able to have all of the information available to us like well what do I need for a podcast what do I need to write a book what do I need for that trip like you want to get everything and have everything ready and prepared except sometimes you're not going to be able to have that and you got to start where you're at and with the things that are available to you And then,
Mhm.
as our mentor will say, you review, rehearse, and revise,
Yeah.
right? You get better each and every time. Except start now. Don't wait for you to have
Yeah.
everything at your hands. So
Yeah, speed is everything in this business. If you want to get somewhere, you just got to go. You got to
yeah,
move.
yeah,
And I can manifest all I want, but if I sit at home on my sofa, it ain't going to come to me.
yeah.
So it's a combination of things. Love yourself, be kind to yourself, set an action and move and take action.
Yeah. Boom. I have. There you go. There you have it. I love that. Ashleigh, well, thank you again for being here. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to discuss again about the book, and thank you for everything you do. And
Yeah.
if you're out there and want to write a book, this is the guy to write a book with because I didn't feel like I did anything. I just sent
Awesome.
him the paperwork and everything was done. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a
I
good
love it.
experience. So get
Good,
on the
good.
next book. I can't wait to read everybody else's story.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Well, Ashleigh, again, thank you so much for being here on the show. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, please share this message because definitely somebody needs to hear it. And I will see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.